You are not live streaming.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to American Muslim 360, the number one Islamic broadcast platform in the nation, where your intellect is respected and your voice is protected. You're listening to the Intimate Stranger podcast. I'm your host, Edward Willis. And if you will allow me, I would like to open with recitation of Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Thank you and welcome everybody again to the Intimate Stranger broadcast. So if you're tuning in to see a video tonight, you are going to be disappointed. We're going to share some information and hopefully we're going to have some lively discussion from myself and those of you who are tuning in. I wanted to start with some news that came down out of the United Nations yesterday, and the information involves the country of Haiti. I only really mention Haiti, number one, because they're in our hemisphere. And, as far as the African diaspora is concerned, Haiti is a very important um, place in the Americas as far as African, ex-enslaved Africans rising up and really and truly taking over a country and making it their own. Like any new enterprise, new country, or whatever, they've had their issues over the years, but they're still our brothers, our cousins, probably more so, and we care about them. Over the last few years, they've had a lot of political turmoil in that country and a lot of violence. They've tried different things to get that under control, two or three different governments, Kenyan peacekeeping force, very small, inadequate for the problem. But on Wednesday, the United Nations agreed to send a 5,500 member peacekeeping force to Haiti, probably comprised primarily of African troops and also Central American troops, I understand, maybe some troops from South America as well. So I think the Kenyan force that's there is probably going to remain there as well. So that will give them pretty close to about 7,000 troops to try to help get that situation under control. According to the UN and other news sources, gangs, not political parties, not an ISIS related or Al Qaeda kind of outfit, but just roving street gangs control 90% of the capital of Port au Prince. And throughout the country, they just harass people all the time, just common everyday people, small farmers, business people, whatever. It's shakedown time for the gangs there in Haiti, and nobody's been able to get them under control. There's something close to like 1.5 million people who are homeless in Haiti. Food resources are very scarce there, much like what we have seen in Gaza, trying to get resources in is met with just all kinds of resistance. Of course, in Gaza, it's the IDF, the Israeli troops, that are intercepting resources and keeping them from the people. In Haiti, it's the roving gangs that are doing that. So the hope is that we can get some kind of order back in Haiti, hopefully within the next year, so that that country can stabilize. And great resources there, agricultural resources for the most part, but definitely for their population, if they have a peaceful country, there's an opportunity for people to thrive there. There's an opportunity. I know there are a lot of people in our association that I've talked to who would love to do business in Haiti, farming business, just visiting the country, maybe doing some resort style things there, beautiful beaches in Haiti, beautiful countryside. So, we'll make dua that they can create some kind of peaceful settlement there in the not too distant future. Topic number two, and I kind of stumbled onto this one, and Sister Manira and others who uh, are on us and always encouraging us toward marriage and building families and stable communities and things of that nature, which is very important both to our community and to society as a whole, might appreciate this. So the title that was placed on the study was Sexual Recession. And it was talking about the United States in particular, and there were two separate studies. One was an independent study by Gene Twing, and another was a study by University of Utah, Professor Wolfinger, I think his name is. He led a group of students that did a study. What they found was pretty interesting. People in the United States are having less sex than at any time since we began studying adult sexual activity. Young people, and they denoted young people as being those between the ages of 18 and 29, are having less sex than any previous studied generation. And they found that between 2014 and 2024, the share of young people living with a partner, whether that's married or unmarried, fell from 42% to 32%. So, why is that a big deal? Well, one of the things that we talk about around the world is this idea of replacement rate. We have people that transition. And traditionally, the way populations have grown is forming families and families having their 2.5 children, so on and so forth, that you're able to grow a population, not have a population diminish. Well, at our current rate, we are replenishing the population at 1.6 births per woman of childbearing age. That's the projection for the next 30 years. To be able to, for our population to remain stable and not really kind of walk backwards, in other words, lose population, we need to have 2.1 births per woman of childbearing age over that same period of time. So I can't put a finger on it. I have no idea what's happening, but I do know that there are alarming trends in Germany, in Italy, in China, in Japan, in South Korea, in Australia, in New Zealand, and there are probably some countries that I am leaving out where they are not having enough births to keep up with those individuals who are transitioning. Their populations are starting to decline. The percentage of their population that are people over 50 years of age is becoming a larger number than is desirable. In other words, they're moving toward a period of time, unless some reversal is made, where just to have people in the workforce to fill the available jobs, they would have to there would have to be an immigration policy that brought people in. They would be dependent upon immigrants to come in and take jobs because not enough of their natives are reproducing to create the generations of workers that are come. And that made me think about artificial general intelligence, or AGI, whatever you want to call it, AI, and the fear that jobs might be going away, that we might be actually creating machines, whether they're computers or whether they're some kind of robot or something like that, that will do jobs that are normally done by people. And potentially, maybe we don't have a worker shortage issue. But I really think it's a bigger problem than that. Something psychologically and probably economically, and those who study the two know that the whole study of economics came from psychology. There was no economics. It kind of came out of psychology, of using uh, psychological evaluations and things like that to determine what people are going to do with anything, including their money. So something's happening psychologically and economically to a lot of advanced countries around the world. Because where you don't have this issue, or you haven't had the issue, believe it or not, it's starting to become a little bit of an issue. It's like the continent of Africa. I mean, I think those of us who were on the call earlier this morning, we heard a young lady give a number that, very large number of citizens of the continent of Africa are under the age of 30. But I want to say over the last 15 years or so, there has started to be a decline in African birth rates. And, some people blame Bill Gates and some of the initiatives that he has for that. But there has started to be a decline in the number of births per woman of childbearing age, even in the continent of Africa, which has left primarily the Middle East as the fastest growing as far as births per female in the world, even though the Middle Eastern population is not that great, but as a percentage wise, it is great. So just something to think about. And I'd love to hear the opinions of those who are on this particular broadcast of what you think might be the issues that are not only reducing birth rates, but also reducing just overall sexual activity amongst adults. And we know in our country, it's not just because they're not getting married, as we have a lot of sex outside of marriage, or have had in the past, in the United States of America. So what do you guys think is happening that's decreasing the amount of sexual activity as much as it is? And Micheal Hamin has his hand up. Michael?
Yes, God's peace be with you and the audience. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Yeah, this interesting topic, intimate stranger. I, uh, human behavior is not simple. Sometimes it is, but it's pretty complex. And I think there may be a number of factors. Um, and right away, I kind of thought about, I mean, well, how accurate is this data? Is this information? Um,
Well, I will tell you this, and this is from an entirely different discussion that I had with someone in the medical profession probably 5 or 6 months ago.
mm,
And there is extremely detailed data on live births in the United States of America.
mm,
We don't miss too many live births in the United States. They get recorded, they go in the book. People are registering kids for school. People are going to the welfare office and saying, I've got so many kids, I need so much money. I mean, housing, different things like that. We tend not to miss, our people, especially our young people. So the numbers match what these studies are showing as far as the fact that we are having less children.
Okay.
For example, teenage pregnancies since 2002 down about 80%. And people still, wag their hands and go run around in circles because we think that there's all this teenage sex going on and teenage pregnancies and stuff like that. It's down 80% over the last 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yeah, okay, if you got condoms, so maybe they're still having sex and they're all smart enough that they all carry condoms with them, or there's an IUD, or girls are on the pill. All that factors in to the fact that birth rate amongst teenagers is down. But anecdotally, what every person that I talk to says is if you go anywhere that there are, let's say, 10 to 12 individuals from the age of, say, 15 to 19 in a
Mm-hmm.
group, evenly divided between men and women, they're all looking at their phone.
Yeah, I was going to
They're
bring
not,
that up. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's definitely a factor.
yes. They're not talking to each other. They're not
Yeah.
touching each other,
Here's something
right?
else, anecdotally. I don't remember. It's been years ago now. Maybe it had been at least 10 years ago. The definition of sex with young people, uh, uh, being intimate in other ways than just vaginal sex was something that
Yes,
I was listening to about
yes,
10 years ago.
yes.
The pornography industry,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I believe, is a factor as well. Pornography, uh, and like I say, human behavior is not simple. It's complex. Um, Look at what happened with in the climate here in America of been waiting for this call. The climate here in America of not having, utilizing uh, birth control, men getting among the Caucasians, Europeans in particular, vasectomies and so forth, and to the point where what you mentioned earlier about having sufficient workers has been seen by the real social leaders. I'm not talking about the politicians that they play a part, but the real social leaders and social quote unquote big influencers, really influencing the cultural environment. Um, they, I believe that the Supreme Court was forced to get rid of uh, abortion rights because these people are not like the common folks. They plan 50 years, 100 years ahead. They're looking at trends and whatnot. Because I remember when I was coming up, uh, this idea of the, there not being enough resources.
Mm-hmm.
There are not enough resources to help the human population. We have to be careful. And that idea is still out there in terms of quote unquote productive labor. And those who are not productive, you know, moves are being made. Well, look, we're not going to support you. We're not going to take care of those
Correct.
that cannot be productive in the way that we see production. You know,
Right.
um, and they have guidelines in terms of what they look at as being productive. And you mentioned AI and other factors, robotics and so forth. We're not going to need as many workers, but we need skilled workers. We don't just need
Exactly.
labor. We don't need labor. We need skilled labor. You know. And
Hmm.
so these are factors that are playing a part. I've heard, this is anecdotal also, people are saying, what do I look like having sex and bringing a child into this environment? You know, it's,
Yeah,
it's too many problems.
that's a big part of it. Another big part of it, and this coincides obviously with birth control of all kinds.
Yes,
But obviously, when the pill was introduced,
yes.
and also when colleges opened their doors to accepting more women, those two things coincided with each other
Oh, yeah.
to create the thought in the heads of many women that it wasn't that they did not want to have children, it's that they could delay having children, that they had an opportunity to go and educate themselves beyond a 2 year finishing school if they were of that, usually young white women. Would go to Sophie Newcomb in New Orleans and these finishing
Yeah,
schools that teach them how to, set the table. I mean, all
yeah.
these, right,
Ho-
country club kind
Home
of stuff.
home
Yes,
economics.
home economics, all of that type of thing, right? So, and even in our African American colleges, historically black colleges, a lot of the education that was directed at young women, probably before the 1970s, had a lot more to do with preparing them to be nurturers, teachers, but wives and mothers. I
Yeah.
mean, very much so. Even our best
Well,
institutions that we had were doing that.
lastly, I'd like to introduce the idea, and I see you have another hand up. I'd like to
Yes.
introduce the idea, and this is very foundational and like the white elephant in the room in terms of male-female relationships. Um, the respect, I should say the dishonor that has over hundreds of years been put upon, labeled upon women in general, from women having no souls. And this is out of the church leadership misinterpreting scripture. Women
Mm-hmm.
having no souls, women being the accomplice of the devil. There's either two extremes. One is Mary the Virgin, God's peace be upon
Right.
her, and the other is Jezebel,
Right.
the temptress and that sort of thing, the schemer. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, women are seeing now that they don't have to be barefoot and pregnant, for
Correct.
all of their youth, and uh, dignity is coming to the woman, in my opinion, by Almighty God, because of how she has been seen and not faring well, even in Western countries. And I'll stop with that.
I would even posit that since the 70s, that women have taken it upon themselves to define themselves and not be
Absolutely,
defined by
absolutely,
men or by the culture
yeah.
that they live in.
They've got
And
they've got a term now, man speak. Don't man speak me.
yeah, exactly.
Don't explain for
Right.
me. I said what I said.
Sister Manira, your hand is up.
Yes, assalamu alaikum to
Walaikum
everyone.
salam.
Yeah, one area that we um, maybe don't look at enough is uh, that there possibly is a level of burnout uh, in looking for quote unquote healthy relationship, and how is that defined now in 2025? So with the um, parameters that you discussed regarding people not talking to each other and being on their cell phones, not engaging each other, not communicating, but everyone in their own little space and own little world that they create through their social media and whatever you're scrolling on your phones and everything. Um, how has that diminished just basic human interaction and empathy and compassion and all these elements that are crucial to relationships. So I'm going to actually try and do some research on this, but I do see a lot of complaints on the level of relationships and the dissatisfaction with the level of relationships that from male and female that people are experiencing. The whole idea of a hookup and meetup and all these things get very old very quickly, and there's a burnout because the question is now what? That's done. How do we progress from here? So if the male and female are not keeping up with each other as far as growth and development, a gap is going to be created. And you come up with this dissatisfaction of relationships or meeting people or being very difficult to find someone to meet that is equally yoked with you. There was a trend, I think I came across that information last year, where people were signing off of dating platforms.
Big time.
Because
They're leaving in droves.
Yeah, and they're looking to friends and colleagues and people that know them to access someone suitable to meet and to date. So someone with a referral, with references, rather than a stranger, because it was safer. So if safer was the option, then there was a lot of uncertainty and people feeling unsafe in the previous practices. So this is going to be a big adjustment for the population to go through, because some people are going to have to play catch up with their social skills, with developing character, and even developing mentally and emotionally. The biggest illness is, as reported now in the United States at least, is loneliness. Okay, people making connections with other people. Okay, so all of this has gotten us to a very crucial point in relationships with each other, and it's going to have to be analyzed and looked at, and I'm sure that there is some analysis going on somewhere, and I will definitely see if I can find any of these studies. But just being able to communicate, children go right into their rooms, come home, go right into their rooms and plug in, so it's catching up with us.
The big trend right now, since, as you correctly said, that dating applications are that action is down somewhere between 30 and 40%. I mean, every one of those platforms is laying people off left and right. The move now is into experiential group activities. So people are planning outings, and these are corporate. This is the move that money is making. Big corporate money is into planning activities. It might be something as simple as a night at the opera or a book club, corporate sponsored book clubs, or night of jazz or a night of dancing, that line dancing craze that's out there right now. For those people who dance, I don't. But things like that where you're pulling people in who have a shared interest in something as kind of an easy, almost chaperoned way for people to share an experience that they already love with other people who love those experiences as well, love that as well, and as a way of meeting people. So I think we're going to see a lot more of those type activities. I don't know how long that lasts because of the dopamine loops that most of us have, of where you get tired of that, and there's got to be something greater than that, something wilder, something more fun to replace it. So it's a kind of a crucial juncture, I think, amongst, especially in the so-called advanced world, as to where we go with relationships. And I've talked enough. Sister Kalita, your hand is up.
I had a follow-up as well. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Sister Kalita?
People that live in countries where and cultures where you have an understanding that Allah is in control of life and death, and if I am pregnant, we will make a way. Opposed to those who want to plan out financially the cost of raising a child and the cost of housing and everything before they decide to procreate. You're going to see also a gap there in birth rates. So,
Sister Manera, what I will tell you is that's pretty much going to be everywhere, because even the countries that we may have thought 20 years ago were kind of behind the curve, those countries, regions of the world, are the ones that are making the biggest advancement in education, like Africa, for example. Africa is catching up with the rest of the world educationally at a very rapid rate. And the majority of that education in Africa is African women. And as a result of that education, African women are making different choices than they were before. That they don't have to be a peasant girl walking around the bush barefooted with 3 little kids around them anymore. They can now start their own business, and some of that business is small technology. They don't have to be totally dependent on some guy that works 3 days a week and sits under the shade tree the other 4 days of the week. That is happening on the continent of Africa. It's happening and has been happening for the last 35 years in Southeast Asia. You know, your Vietnams and your Cambodias and Laos and places like that, where their reproduction was high. Now it's coming back down to the mean. They have improved economically across the board. And a lot of that improvement has been from women-owned small businesses, microfinancing, and things of that nature, for these women that are making, I mean, straw hats, baskets, I mean, small factory sewing and different things like that. When they start making those economic improvements, they start making different social choices because they don't have to make a quick social choice. That's my anecdotal opinion. I just know that the numbers are there to show that something's happening. And I think it has to do a lot with economics and education. Sister Khalid, are you back?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Excellent program. I just was tuning in to share just different perspectives on that. And I know that you're talking from a global perspective as far as people being, they're educating themselves now and they're not deciding to have as large of families. However, we know that is happening, but it's also part to do with where the paradigm shift went as far as economics and who's in leadership, and their values they're changing. I know myself, I had 5 children, and I started very young. My first child, I was very young when I first started being a mother. And I also had the opportunity to go to college and get my degree and marry and be in a healthy marriage. And there is nothing in the world, no job in the world that could ever replace that. If I could do it all over again, I would do it over and over again. We have a need to build strong families and marriages. We have to go back to morality, and we have to go back to learning how to tolerate things we are unfamiliar with, and being more faithful and committed to the institution of marriage. Because all the money in the world is not going to help us when we meet our creator. All the money in the world does not matter. I see a lot of women, and I'm observing them because I admire them. Older women than me, they had lived that life. They have the house, the car, they did that educational journey, and they are lonely and they are not happy. And they are at the age where it's hard to find a husband in our community and without. And so I definitely hope that we as Muslims are not just looking at what the world is telling us. I know there are communities, like you said, in Africa. A lot of people have been abused emotionally, financially, because they do not have the educational resources. And when a woman has a child, she is not able to work for a certain amount of time, and her husband is supposed to take care of her. That is how Allah designed it. And so we're going to have a lot more social issues if we all think that the woman is going to educating her and giving her a high paying job and getting a career is the end all be all. We cannot get away from how Allah has designed. The mother is the nurturer. She is the one that keeps the household together, so to speak, with a husband. We need to raise our men to be men. We need to make sure that when they meet a sister, they're not playing around or using religion to manipulate or using status, whatever is going on in Africa. I heard some horror stories as well, but we have to get back to our God consciousness and doing things the right way. And I know it's an individual perception, and people are making these moves individually, but overall it will impact humanity drastically. We have to speak out against it. We have to, not against education. I'm for education. I love women to be educated, because when you educate a woman, who said that? Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You educate a nation, because she's not going to keep it for her to herself. She's going to raise her children, her husband, her sisters, and everything else. And I know I'm speaking to the choir, but we've got to advocate on both sides. We can't let the world buy in, because we have a lot of people in government with billions of money that are wicked and selfish. And we don't want to lose that sensitivity that God gave that woman to nurture and put into a decent man who's willing to be what Allah created him to be and lead his household. Because your wife can still go back and get her degree and still do all the things that other women do. But she can't go back 50 years later and have her children. And I wanted to just put that out there, because I see it on both sides. And it's sad. It's sad when you can't, your biological clock has passed you by, and you wanted to be that strong woman, or you had a marriage, it didn't work out, and you just cut everybody off and just wouldn't talk to any more brothers. And now they're regretting it in some instances. And I'll stop right there. But this is an excellent topic. And inshallah, we can look at more assessments and also look at what Allah designed to be the way of life. And I'll stop there. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Those are wonderful points. So you may have missed some of the earlier statements about just the United States of America and the fact that there is so much less cohabitation, married or unmarried, in the United States these days. So much less sex, so much less live births, just within the United States of America, across the board, irregardless of race, irregardless of social status or finances. And one of the things that came to my mind, and it's, again, I haven't done a deep dive on this, but when you have a society where you do not have these relationships between men and women forming, especially young people, and I'm not talking about them having sex, I'm just talking about the natural attraction and the desire to prepare yourself, especially as a man, to be capable of being a husband. Sister Kalita said we need to train our young men to be better. I'm 100% back that it's not something you walk into just because you just turned 21 or whatever and you know what's going on. It's a training process of getting a young man to the point that he can actually be a provider and protector and be involved in the procreation process and do that in a stable, positive way. It takes some work. And one of the things that's happened in the African American community, surprisingly, over the last, say, 30 years or so, is this steady increase in the number of suicides amongst young African American men. This was something that in my time as a young man before the age of 30 was unheard of. African American men did not take their lives. If you heard of an African American young man harming himself or something, it was like you couldn't believe it. You know, something had to be wrong with them. They were gay. What was it? Somebody found out, they were on the down low. Something drastic would have had to have happened to cause somebody to self-harm themselves. Now, amongst our young men, much more so than our young women, self-harm is just something that if you're a mother, you need to look for because it's happening at such a rapid rate. And I actually think that the lack of relationship building, of being noticed and having conversations with, the opposite sex, I actually think it's harder on men, young men, than it is on women. And I think it causes young men to do things both to themselves and to do things in society that are harmful to both. And again, I haven't done the deep dive on that. It's just conversations I've had with people who look at these particular type things and who have also seen it. And yeah, I wouldn't know where to start as far as a solution, but I will say this too. Very little of it is happening at the government level. I'm talking about the root causes of it. We turn over government often, especially in this country, whether it's a senator, a representative, a president, or whatever direction, all those things. This is happening at the corporate level. This is happening with people who are invested in manipulating us psychologically to make money off of us. And they figured out a long time ago that individuals between the age of 12 or 13 and 25 were the easiest minds to manipulate. And they started targeting that particular age group, male and female, to sell them anything and everything, including ideas about the way the world should be. And they can do it 24/7 for some of the reasons that we've talked about tonight. Some of it's that little screen that, our young people stare at 18 hours a day. If they're not sleeping, they're trying to stare at that thing, even if they're in a classroom. That there are messages in there that they are absorbing that is affecting their behavior. And we're almost we're going to run out of time because there's something else that I wanted to get to tonight that I think is a community that we need to think about replicating. Very quickly, Sister Martha, you have not had a chance to comment, so I'll go to you first. Sister Kalita, your hand is still up, and Micheal Hamin's hand's up, but Sister Martha, go ahead.
First of all, can you hear me okay? I pray.
Yes, yes.
Very good. And my earbuds are working very well. Okay. Definitely already in my mind, seeking refuge with Allah. I love everything that has been put on the table, and it needs to be laid out and diced down, if it can be, to the lowest common denominator. And there are many. One I'm seeing, and this is right within household. All right. I don't know, where the door opened and where the road turned, but I have no, from the children that have been right up under me, they have no desire to have children. I think Michael once spoke out about that. And they love children, but they have no desire to have children because they speak of just what you said, the influence of being on these social, I don't know, I don't want to say social media, but they've given in to it. And as far as they want a mate, but they're so afraid because they hear so much about domestic violence that even a young sister I spoke to about, and she was going to come on and talk about it, but she said she didn't want her mother to know that she thinks this way. And she's in college. I mean, she actually a librarian. And they're just saying they don't want to get married because of the fear of domestic violence. And they see it, like Khalida brought out about the divorces after 20 and 30 years, or even after, less than that. And then having children as my, and then I'm not going to omit homosexuality is in the air. I can't say it's in mine, but it's in the air. And however they're leveling their minds to think about it. So our unseen enemy, but seeing the schemes of it. I'll stop right there.
Thank you, sister. Michael?
Yes, and it's not rocket science. These issues have solutions. We just have to meet. We have to talk. My program, which follows yours, I named it Not Just Talk. And I decided to, instead of JUST, I decided to use JUZ. And I said, oh, that's a section of the Quran. Okay, all right. Thank you, Lord. But we have to see, I love the fact that you bring up information and invite us to have conversations and plan. And because we're streaming, we're inviting the wider audience to these to these methodologies. We have to talk, real talk. We need substance and not rhetoric. We need substantive talk, and we need to invite ourselves to find. No, well, the Imam told us to ask God for what we need and then go get it. So I'll use that formula. We have to find thoughtful people, what they call out there thought leaders. People, they may not see themselves as thought leaders, but they're resourceful men and women that know how to manage their lives and have a concern for more than just themselves. Like my aunt, very quickly, my aunt told me, Michael, and I was having some very serious self-absorption issues that were driving me crazy. And my aunt says, Michael, you're the kind of person that needs to help somebody. It took me a minute to get it, but it was straightforward. Look, get your mind off yourself. You thinking too much about yourself. You need to think outside of yourself. There are people that look behind. We were told, look behind you. Bunch of people doing worse than you're doing, and they're not complaining, and they're not going crazy over it. Well, some of them are, we know. But, just look behind you, and try to get with the ones that are not going crazy,
Right.
And so that's my answer. We need to meet as men and women. And then I also believe that the men need to meet periodically separately, because there's some stuff we definitely need to iron out as providers and protectors. And seeing marriage, here's another thing, lastly, we need to see marriage as more than just what do they call it, this atomic kind of relationship. We need to go back to the recognition that families connect with families when you marry. And look around. Some of these, what do you call them? Marriages where, you know, I can't think of the word because I'm trying to get off the mic here. Marriages where one family member and another family member get together, usually the fathers or some male member, and you know, get the husband and wife candidate together. Contra- and you know, contractual marriage contracts is something that's important in Al-Islam, but we need to look at ways to solve these problems, and you can't do them without talking about them. And then not just talk, we have to have solutions, and we shouldn't permit any kind of conversational environment where we just talking about like a doctor that will tell you, well, you're sick. Well, I know that. That's why I came to you, doc. You
Right.
know, I don't want to. What's the answer? What's the medicine? That's
Yeah, I
what
need
we need.
solutions.
We need to demand that, and you do that,
Right.
Edward. Thank you.
Sister Kalita, is your hand just still up? You didn't take it down? Okay. So we're 9 minutes from the top of the hour, and Michael's show, Not Just Talk, is in front of us. I wanted to, and we may have to get back to this next week. I wanted to introduce to a few of you, some of you already know about this particular organization. And they go by several different names depending on the part of the country that you are in. So their kind of umbrella name is the Alliance for Shared Values. Here in the state of Texas, they are known to us as Dialogue Institute. Around the world, they are known either as the Gulen Movement or Hizmet. They are Islamic. They are Sunni. And the reason I'm bringing them up is, as our brother Muhammad Sharif is constantly reminding us, we've gone from this number of Sister Clara Muhammad schools and WD Muhammad high schools to this much smaller number of Sister Clara Muhammad schools, etc. And the question is why? And part of the reason, and I heard it this morning, Brother Ramadan said it, was money. There was no support. He's there in New York, and he was basically just came out and said there was no support for the schools. And even the parents that had their children in the schools were complaining about the tuition. And in the current educational environment that has existed probably since maybe 2005, and that's here in Texas, where I live, with the advent of this charter school process of getting a charter school, that there have been, I lost count of the number of Christian-based charter schools that exist just even close to my neighborhood where I live, not all across the city of Dallas, but just around my neighborhood. And obviously all over the rest of the state of Texas, charter school after charter school after charter school, run by Christians, run by this group, run by this other group, whatever the case may be. And I know we in Milwaukee, I think the school in Milwaukee that is associated with our community is a charter school. And I've kind of wondered why we, as a community, IWDM community, have not fully embraced that idea of taking money that we pay in taxes to the state and the federal government and pulling some of that money back into our community by way of charter schools. And this group that I just brought up to you, this Hizmet movement, they run different names, and I'm just going to go by the one that I'm familiar with, which is Harmony schools. They're charter schools. They're run by Muslims. In the state of Texas, at the end of 2024, there were 61 campuses just in the state with over 45,000 students. Now, the students that go to these schools, not every one of them's a Muslim. And we don't want every one of the students that go to our schools to be a Muslim. When my older son was in Sister Clara Muhammad's school, there were many Christian students attending Sister Clara Muhammad's school because their parents knew that they were going to get a good general education, but they were going to get a very strong, solid moral education by going to school with those Muslims. They were very happy to drop their kids off every day, and their kids did well and continued to do well in life, even after the school here closed and they had to go to public school. They were exceptional when they got to public school. My son was exceptional when he got to public school. He was ahead from going to Sister Clara Muhammad School. So I know from talking to Sister Khalida, she's a member of Graceline, we have conversations that the summer programs that they have at the masjid there, as Shaheed, children from all different walks of life, faiths and everything are there, and they do exceptionally well. They love it. The parents love it. So what has stopped us as a community from potentially tapping in to this wealth of funds and becoming charter schools, potentially hiring people as teachers and administrators in those situations who mirror our values? Many of them obviously could be our own well-educated Islamic brothers and sisters. And if not, others, Christians and so forth, who also mirror the same values that we have. So where you're teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic and all the STEM stuff, that you're also implanting the values that we cherish in children. So if it's money is a problem, our money is leaving our pockets and going somewhere and going to fund other people's activities, the charter schools that they open. And what I'm positing is that we should get involved in that process and start opening our own charter schools and inviting every child in the neighborhood whose parent recognizes that their children need proper guidance along with algebra to attend our schools. And we've got 2 minutes. I see a couple of hands up. Khalida, your hand is still up. I don't know if you didn't take it down, but Michael, your hand is up as well.
Yes, Brother Edward. I was notified by my guest. I've been trying to get him on for several weeks now. Attorney, Imam and attorney Yusuf Abdul Salam. He lives in Georgia, but for a number of years I worked with him in
Okay.
in Selma, Alabama. He let me know that he has a case that he has to put paperwork together for that came up, trying to get this young man out of jail, and that he needs to prepare that paperwork for the before the morning. So inshallah, God willing, he'll be with us next Thursday. But let's just continue this line, Edward. I'm feeling a little low energy anyway.
Well, I mean, and I'm really Sister, and I'm going by the name that I see, and I'm going to say Sister Gail Muhammad. Your hand is up. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. Assalamu alaikum. I just
Wa
have
alaikum salam.
moving slow, getting it off the mic on. I think your idea is an excellent idea, and we should definitely look in it. Because I believe the Sister Claire Muhammad School in Atlanta, they receive government funding.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just for certain students or whatever, but that's the route we should go. I think when Imam Muhammad picked up the American flag and he encouraged us to go back to our families and stuff, because a lot of times in the Nation of Islam, we were not really invested in our families as much. And then, that way we have to see that we are part of America and we do pay taxes. It's been real estate taxes in Pennsylvania that funds the schools. In Pennsylvania, also, if you want to open a charter school, you have to be approved by your local schools. Some of that is changing, and I'm not sure where that process is now, but we should go that route and get a charter school and get back some of the money that we pay to educate our children. And when I think it was President Bush, when he came out with the faith-based initiative, it opened the door for that.
That's right.
So that's an excellent idea, and I'll be willing to help the process.
Yeah, it may be one of those things where the process varies state to state.
Yes.
But Texas is very much like Pennsylvania. When you said property taxes, that's really how our schools are funded here primarily. It's through property taxes and whatever the state gets back from the federal government, right? Department of Education. That's how it's done. And it comes out to something between 9 and 11,000 per student.
Yes, it's higher than that in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, okay. So, and Imam Adam Bia and I were talking at one time, and we were thinking the number probably need to be around 12 to 13. But we know that most of our schools, even the ones that are still open, have gotten by on much less than that.
Yes.
So even if we were pulling in from the state $9,000 or $10,000 per student, we know how to make that work.
Yes.
So that is something I think that, yeah, those who kind of know that process, you're involved in education, or if you can read and retain information, that, yeah, we should look at that in our communities.
Yes.
And we should not stop at saying, well, we only have X number of children under a certain age. It's not going to be 100% dependent on just children in the IWDM community. There, you got to pull children from all those neighborhoods around you.
Yes.
If they know you and they know what your values are, they would rather have their children with you than to send them over to that gladiator academy of a school that they'd have to go to, called the public school system.
That's right. That's absolutely true. And Gail, I appreciate you in offering help. This is what we need. When we had much more limited resources, we were leading as a group from Imam Muhammad's father's Nation of Islam. Homeschooling was being done, with a lot less resources than we have now. And one of the factors, as I'm looking at it, is the relatability. Something happened with the school system. I remember there was a Wendy's across the street from the Birmingham Masjid where I was imam, and so there were not, was it Wendy's? No, it wasn't Wendy's. It was another fast food restaurant. But two of our members were managers at that restaurant for a short time. And I remember talking to a young lady who was a worker there. She may have been an assistant manager. but her attitude, she was an African American woman, her attitude, it was like, uh, she's talking to another one of the teachers. Well, Mr. Jones, it's time to get on out of here. Just can't wait to get out. Just looking for a paycheck, in the front line to get a check, but the first one out the building, and inviting
Right.
inviting others to come behind her. The atmosphere of public school, in spite of all the resistance to charter schools, uh, I found in Birmingham, I was active. We couldn't even get retired teachers to help us form a strategy for improving the content of the Birmingham public school system. And it was, and the school system was run by African American superintendent and others on the board. In fact, it was all kinds of chocolate in the political environment there in Birmingham. But I worked with a friend, he called them Negro managers. They were managing other people's, they were managing resources for other people. And the black mayor, the first black mayor, he left with several heart attack issues, uh, saying that the city was worse off for us as he was leaving than when he came in.
Mm,
That's pitiful. And
yes.
I believe God made him say that, I'll never forget that. But we have to strategize, you know. We've got more resources today than we've ever had, and
Yes.
more is coming forward. These young people we have more young people going to college, and if they can't directly, this is what I believe in, if we can't get people, smart people, to directly engage in our educational process, consult with them. Okay, you show me what I need to do with my class.
Mm-hmm.
You be my consultant. And the same for these young people, that, oh, our young adults, our young people have left the masjid and the sinners. Oh, woe is us. Well, do you still talk with them? Keep the lines of communication open.
Yeah.
The particular centers where they're leaving, it may not be structured for them to stay. There may not be enough there, in terms of their involvement. They don't just want to sit. Look, young people are not going to sit around and just listen to stuff. They got to do something. And so knowing that, that's how we should be engaging them, what they can do. And at a minimum,
Mm-hmm.
again, at a minimum, we can consult with them. Can you help us with this? Can what do you think about this? I talk with my son. He's not directly in the masjid, and I had to let him know. He was thinking, without conversing with me, that I was looking for him to be an imam. I said, man, I didn't want to be an imam. What are you talking about? I I didn't want to be an imam, and as soon as I got the opportunity, I stuck that imam cap in my back pocket, and found other ways to serve, because it just didn't fit me. Just like going into the prisons is not for everybody, and I found out it wasn't for me. And
Right.
my concern going into the prisons was not so much you coming to the masjid or the center. I want you to stay out of prison, and you can decide on yourself what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing is getting the skill set to stay out of jail. You know, and so again, these problems are problems, yes. But the Imam said you have to probe the limb. Problem, probe the limb. We have to discuss, with people that still have interest, still have curiosity, still have imagination. This world invites you to just leave off your imaginative thinking, productive imaginative thinking. It invites
Mm-hmm.
us to leave off um, a commitment. We don't have an environment today where leadership is respected and followership is respected, especially followership. You know, too many people are saying my thing instead of our thing. It's just too much of that, too much individualism, you know, and not enough uh, sacred unity, a binding philosophy of life that gives us more than lip service to my brother and my sister. You know, we need something that really stimulates that we have a connection, and also the stimulation of the connection that we are human beings. You know, okay, I was listening to this one guy. It was an old argument. You know, why do you black folks have to call yourself Afro-American, African American? Everybody else is just American, and that's a damn lie.
It sure is.
You got Italian Americans. I've seen them. You know, where do you think St. Patrick's Day comes from? You know, in New York, they put green dye in the river, you know, celebrating their Irish heritage, you know. So uh Bill Bill Willis said we have to resist people pouring muddy water on us, making us think it's rain, you know, in one of his songs. You know, we have to resist the gaslighting that's going on, you know. That people will try to tell us about us, you know, and they looking for us to get upset because they took Barack Obama's picture out of the White House, or they did something with Dr. King's image, you know. Well, we should respond rather than react. And if we could just get a sufficient number, it doesn't have to be everybody. If we can get a sufficient number of people that are thoughtfully thinking about the best way to proceed and get over this idea, you know. Uh, Look, one of the quiet secrets is, you know, we got a leadership body, and we also have those that may be what they call informal leaders. You know, you have those that people that have influence because they are resourceful, but it's too much ego going on. And I think oftentimes, this is my friend chiming in. I'd ask him to call, and I'm going to bring him. Asma, hold on. I'm going to bring you. I'm setting up my mic so that you can hear the program. Okay, let's see what. Okay, can you hear me now? Asma, are you there? Okay, I may have lost him. Call him back. Yeah, so these issues, these issues can be solved. You're on the air. Just hold on. You're on the air. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's my friend. He's in the hospital, and that I can count my friends on one hand, and he's one of them, as my Baraka. So yes, anyone else? Sister Khalida, your hand is still up. Uh, Anyone else that would like to share? But there are answers to these issues, and for the men and women and children of faith, we seek the Creator's help. Again, Martha, come right on in, Martha Nyla.
All right. Alhamdulillah. I love it when we can see solutions. Thank Allah for that. Um, yeah, and I'm here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And in Florida, you know, there's a lot happening that keeps the boat rocking, but it's not anything unfamiliar. And I say it that way politically, educationally, so much so educationally that we're seeking how to have education if we do nothing but get the grammar and and for the younger children per se, but form a regularity of like we do yard sales, make it become a cultural scenery whereby
Absolutely.
education is a part of that culture, that children get used to coming out and cleaning their yards like we used to do. Children get used to doing the communal things, and then we not overlook those that are houseless, those that are coming out of prison, forming a process to where they come before the community. It's just like the family, not in a disrespectful way, not in disrespecting them, because they've served some time away. We have a process right now. The Muslim community does, whereby we are looking forward to employing that process. And as we get it a little more strengthened, we are connected with the jail system, whereby we can give community hours to those who have to come out and complete that process. But giving them the enthusiasm and the understanding, having them research their own selves as to why, like you mentioned, Mike, why they even got arrested. Now, on the same side of that, real understanding what were prisons created for. And it included homeless or houseless and poor people. So when Mr. Trump goes back to that part and said that he's going to have homeless people picked up, that's because he's going back to that policy that still is erected. So, and then when you look at the wording for Department of Corrections, our involvement, from the homes where we're living, the connection that we're keeping the communication lines open. And even though, like I say, I may not have immediate great grand, but Allah subhanahu still gives you young minds to connect with. So I'll stop right there.
That's very good, Martha. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, sometimes the answers are right in front of us. It's a matter of perception. That are we looking for it to be too complicated or requiring too many resources? I've heard this before, but very recently, it may have been from this African sister that I was listening to. The school setting was underneath a big tree. Where there's a teacher and students, you have a classroom. That's been the nature of that dynamic. Teacher, student, whether it be under the classroom or at the library, that relationship. So, alhamdulillah, anyone else? Is this the Lacey Umar? DeLacy Omar, your mic is open. DeLacy? Your mic is open, DeLacy. DeLacy Omar. Going once. DeLacy Omar going twice. Okay, anyone else? I'm going to close this mic. His mic might have accidentally opened. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Anyone else? We're looking at solutions to improve our circumstances, and we're looking at considering the social environment and the political environment that's going on. We need survival knowledge. We need knowledge to help us to survive the rough times. My mother and her sister and my grandmother came through the Depression. My mother told me that she had two dresses. She had two dresses, and the instructions from my grandmother to her mother told her it's better to be damp than to be dirty. Knowing how to manage what you got, for success, for advancement, for improving, for overcoming obstacles, for overcoming barriers and resistance. And life is going to give us that. There's no such thing as an unfair life. In fact, as I see it, life is custom made. We all experience some similar difficulties and happinesses. Happinesses, I don't know if that's a word or not. We all experience happiness in common, certain common experiences of happiness, and we all experience difficulties. But the bitterness of life is necessary to show us what God put in us. You never know that you can overcome a problem until you have to face it. And anytime you come into a challenging situation with yourself, you're already the winner, because you decided that you were not going to give into those circumstances, and you were going to overcome those circumstances. That's just good sense, you know. That's just good sense. And we need more substance talk than flowery speeches. People giving us a whole bunch of BS and haven't said nothing. You know, haven't said a thing, but it sounded good. No answers, just over and over again, the problem, the problem, the problem. Not even a common sense answer, you know, like maybe you need to just walk away from that. Or maybe you need to consult with somebody that's been through that before. Or maybe, you know, instead of just giving in, you know, Lord, how do I deal with this? And we had Sister Rashida on the air, and she was sharing with us an experience that she had in the grocery store. And she heard these older women, they were just chuckling to themselves and laughing. And she was curious. And she went around the corner and asked them, well, what, you know, I'm curious, what were you laughing about? So, you sounded like you were having a good time. They told a child, Trump got us all on our knees now, you know. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe some of our knees haven't hit the floor and called out for the Lord in a lot, you know, whether you know it or not, many of us are in the cathedral of secularism, you know. The world has put us in their own church and set up the services for us, you know. The sacred house of secularism, or whatever they want to call themselves. But again, the mic is open. You know, if you like to join the conversation, we invite you to do so. This is not just talk, and I forgot to formally introduce myself. I'm Micheal Hamin, the host of Not Just Talk, and we've been having these kinds of conversations, and like the one that Edward Willis, the host of Intimate Stranger, we really kind of like segueing from his performance, pardon me, his topic that he introduced. Edward, I want to ask you if you would like to go to, I'll make you the host, and you could present that that short that you wanted to share with us. What do you think? Yeah, what do you think? Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Like, there you are. I was calling on you earlier.
Yeah, I was in the other room, but I was on the phone. The phone had rang. I tried to get it away from the computer.
Yeah.
I was listening at the conversation about education.
Yes, sir.
And I wanted to mention that in Florida, we have a program called the Step Up program, state funded, and it allocates around $10,000 per student. We have a school in Melbourne here with 100 students in it, from pre-K to 8th grade.
Yes.
Yeah, and 100 students. It's divided so many per class, and with the teachers there, and it's a budget where about I think about 10,000 is allocated, and then there's an additional family charge unless you're not able to qualify, of about $100 for one student, and up to a family of students, $125 for the entire family, in addition to the grant from the state, right? And that keeps the school running pretty efficient.
Yes.
Yes. So alhamdulillah, and it's accredited. The school is accredited. When really one of the highest accreditation percentages in the United States, 3 point something. I forget exactly the numbers. But anyway, just wanted to share that information.
Appreciate it.
That is available. In Florida, it's called Step Up, but I heard, I was listening at the charter schools for other states. It's a little different, but it's state funded as well.
Yes. Yes. So, you know, we have some successes going on. We have Muslim successes in the general Muslim population. We also have some Muslim challenges.
Yeah.
We have some particular challenges, and we have successes in the association of Imam Muhammad. I'm not going to put him on the spot, but I've got an 82-year-old big brother on the line. I'm not going to ask you to say anything. Just be quiet. Let me talk. 80 years old. He and his daughter, I'm not going to give her age, he and his daughter have gone back to school, been on the dean's list, and now going to get their master's degree. And that's an inspiration to me. I was telling him, he was inviting me to go back at 78. I was telling him I got too many ADD issues, man. You know, I got adult attention deficit stuff going on with me. You know, I get my education from YouTube and other channels. You know, I listen to topics that make sense, and sometimes I take a deep breath and listen to a whole bunch of ignorance. You know, to see what the ignorance level looks like out there. You know, but I try to. You know, I listen to people like Dr. Andrew Huberman, a neurobiologist, who shared with us, the audience, about the chemicals that cause to bring us together, oxytocin, I think he said, you know, and how that affects us and brings us closer together, like the mother bonding with her child, how oxytocin works in the body, how it's produced, and then how cortisol, which is a fight or flight chemical that the body produces, and how that makes problems for us. You know, when we get doses of that, the blood flow changes from the natural movement, goes to the extremities, the arms and the legs, and for fight or flight, they call it. But they also introduced this other response called, I call it the possum response, you know, where people freeze, you know, they can't do anything, you can't function, you know. And we need to know what's going on with how God has made us to operate, the gifts that He has put in within our control. We have certain skill sets that we're not sufficiently using, in my opinion, and that some of us are not even aware that we have certain things going on, and how situations like we have now in America are designed to bring certain things out of us for the better, not just to panic. And, you know, look, we cannot be herd animals. You know, if you're going to follow the herd, you're going to be in trouble. You need to be thoughtful. And if you don't think you're thoughtful enough for solving problems, you need to you need to ask the Lord to help you, to ask somebody that can really help you. You know, you heard the saying. Alaikum assalam. Thank you. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I just got out of class.
Introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, My name is Ahmed Jamal the first, and I just got out of class. And Allah blessed me to be able to address a subject of sexuality that usually, of course, my daughter and I, we ride it out. We don't add nothing to it because when you start off with something that's twisted and you get another thought in, you could injure the people. But what they did, someone, and when you reach a certain age, everyone's younger than you. Someone brought up a story about two black men they knew nothing about except what they had read.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to take that and bring that back home and explain to my professor and all the women in the class that what they heard about Islam and themselves is what they heard from someone overseas. I said, but what God says, that each and every one of you is the womb of mind. I said, so how can we protect a mind without protecting the womb?
Mm.
They had never heard anything like that before.
Yeah.
And I explained to my young brother, I said, I don't say anything, but every week you mention Malcolm. And I said, you might not have liked him. You wouldn't like how your hair looked. I said, yeah, you women say something about Malcolm. He would have told you to cover your head up and put your dress down.
Yeah.
I said, so what he was about, you know nothing about it. I said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in his last year of life, what he said to us is something that we would never expect him to hear, say. So they're mesmerized.
Yes.
So I'm telling them what he said. And so I told him, I said, now I'm going to tell you something. He told me coming out, I'm coming out. I said, you all ready? I am coming out to you all. And they got their face pressed against the screen. They're waiting. I said, I'm going to say something I never wanted to say. I said, I don't even like to say it to myself, but I say it to myself. I'm an American. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of response did you get with that?
Brother, they were grinning from ear to ear. The professor had tears in her eyes.
Mm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were talking about welfare, the welfare system. I said, that system was only set up to help people with master's degrees. I said, the welfare program writer always has a master's degree. The undergraduate will run the program, and the high school white girl will check everybody out. I said, that's what that was about. I said, you're talking about that welfare movement. It lasted 6 years, and it was just something where black women could express their immorality and still get a check. I said, they got the right to have sex. They got the right to have a man visit their home and still get a check. I said, that's the difference between welfare in the late 60s and the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sitting there. I said, how do I know it? In 1949, we went on welfare.
Mm.
Why did we go on welfare? My mother wasn't a drug addict. My father didn't leave us. He died. And so that's what welfare was for. It's to help people in need, not people helping them become needy.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So alhamdulillah, what you had said earlier about everybody doing the best they can. And what would that make them? The Khalifa.
Explain Khalifa. We've got YouTube.
Khalifa
Or
continues the completion of the reason for our creation. Until we reach the point where God says, okay, now I've made the Khalifa. He said, I'm making Jalni. I'm making a Khalifa. I'm making successive minds in this universe to rule it. And by ruling it, they bring out the best of what they are. And one day we will be where God wanted us to be for the reason He created us. That's why the good fight is worth fighting, because the good fight is the only way you win. Non-fighting, you don't win nothing. The good fight, win or lose, you win.
What does a good fight look like?
The good fight is when we bring all humanity to understand that if our parts are interchangeable, our hearts, our lungs, our everything is interchangeable, then that must mean we're from the same creator. And what has His orders been to us?
So it's no black heart and no white heart, huh?
Well, if you got one, don't take that one. Take the other one.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we all are the same, and I am grateful to Allah to permit me to preach this to white people, because they are the ones that made black people.
Explain that.
Black people are only a response to white people. You don't hear anyone from Burkina Faso saying they're black.
That's true.
They're Burkina Faso, the honest people. The Moroccans never go around saying they're black. The Nigerians don't go around saying they're black. They have a better history than that. It is people who respond to another person who just learned in the 1800s that he was part of a white race.
Yeah, you can Google that.
This is documented.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we who believe in God and we believe in life and death, the most important thing we believe in is coming back for judgment. That's the most important thing.
Yes.
For those who have no shame, they're not worried about the hereafter. And it's not so much the hereafter, but coming into the real life. Yes. That's what we are bound for. It's not Christian. It's not Muslim. It's not Jewish. It's not Scandinavian. It's not Irish. It is all the children of Adam. All of them. I often tell students, the only alien in America are those who do not need to breathe oxygen. So now we got a problem. If you need oxygen, that's my brother. So I'm going to start on another piece of paper now. I just wanted to holler at you before I did that.
Appreciate
it. I'm glad that you're doing a great work by just communicating and with people that are worth communicating with. Now, who is that? Anyone that will speak and listen.
Yes.
Because most people, they won't speak and they won't listen.
Yes.
But anyone that's speaking and listening, we remember Surah Ar-Rahman. Allah says, after He created the human, He gave him he gave him speech, but before he gave him speech, He gave him I know the word in Arabic.
Discernment.
I don't want to.
Discernment. Discernment.
Insan.
Yes.
Intellect.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I sometimes I don't like to use the Arabic because some people don't know what I'm saying.
Well, it's okay to explain it. Yeah.
Yes, and He gave us that intellect that raised us above all of creation, and then permitted us to do what? To be able to have intelligent speech.
Yes.
So whoever embraces us with intelligent speech, we don't even have to agree with them. We can reason.
Yes.
That's what intelligent speech is about. And history has shown that when we come together as human beings and collaborate, we make good things happen.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I gotta go, beloved.
All right.
Just checking on you. May Allah bless you and your audience.
Thank you.
And y'all keep praying for us because this work is turning my brains gray.
Well,
Okay?
you got some help there with Hassana.
Yes, he's sending you the greetings. He's over here.
Alaikum assalam.
He's over here with the keyboard right now.
Okay.
And don't forget, Lieutenant Colonel Ali.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum to you both. Thank you. Alhamdulillah. That was Ahmed and Hassana at the end. Hassana Ali. Ahmed Jamal Ali, my big brother. Alhamdulillah. Okay. I'm gonna have to, oh boy, I'm gonna have to mute that. He's in the hospital, my friend Asma. And that's his daughter's coming in to check on him and bring him some water and some other thing, a Quran. So anyone else like to share? This is not just talk on American Muslim 360. Again, I'm your host, Micheal Hamin, and we invite you who are on the Zoom platform to share your thoughts. I really appreciate Brother Ahmed's comments. He's interacting with people that had no idea that they were Muslims like him and his daughter. We have circumstances in America where these various pictures are being curated, and that's when language and images are put together to present a certain perception or a certain identity for ideas and peoples. We as African Americans, we have all this black and white talk here in America. As my friend Ahmed was speaking, I thought about Isabel Wilkerson's book, caste, C-A-S-T-E, the caste system. She's referring to in her book, and there was a situation where she was at an event, and she was talking with this poetess from Africa, and she mentioned Black people, and the poetess, the lady from Africa, told her, "Well, we don't have Black people in Africa." And Miss Wilkerson was surprised. "What do you mean? Africa's full of Black people." "No, we don't use that language in Africa." And see, that is an example of what Imam Muhammad has told us about the importance of language, how words make people, how man is the mind, woman is the womb of mind, and how the language environment is very important. The words that we are around, the ideas that are produced by words that we find ourselves influenced by. I see Moto G Power. Welcome. State your name.
I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to change my name, Brother Mike. I just wanted to say that I enjoy Brother Ahmed. I'd like his spirit. He lifts my spirit. Would you invite him? Would you invite him back on?
I sure will. I've been trying to get it. I kind of snuck him in that time because he normally resists when I give him a direct invitation, but this time I got him.
Okay. Well, he was very encouraging, so ask him if he would come back on and share with us again.
I sure will, and your kind words, I'm sure, will have an influence on him, and I think he enjoyed the experience. But
yeah, he seemed like he did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's an interesting guy. I don't think he would mind me telling it if I can word it correctly. He was his family has been a part of the Nation of Islam for a number of years before Imam Muhammad became the leader of the then members. But he had a certain type of spirit growing up, and that spirit led him to go against the social order. And his mama was worried about him and his brother. And when she told she had a chance to tell Imam Muhammad about him and his brother. And Imam Muhammad told her, well, it sounds like those boys have the spirit of Nat Turner in them, you know? And that's why they're doing what they're doing. They've got that spirit of Nat Turner in them. And there are those today that are like that. They resist. I had a little bit of it in me, and I remember the environment that I was in of young men, young boys, teenagers that had a sense, I do not want to be a sheep. I refuse to be a sheep. If I have to live, I'd rather be a wolf than a sheep. You know, I'm not going to be sheepish. You know, I'm going to resist. I'm going to resist these micro insults and this curating of a narrative about who I am. Somebody else telling me who I am, and it's not a pretty picture. It's an ugly picture of me, and I know me, and what they're saying about me is not me. You know, so I had that spirit, and I kind of found myself being around people with that spirit. A funny thing. I was a preteen, and as a preteen, I was in the Catholic Church, being baptized. I wasn't born into the church. My mother didn't go to church. My grandmother went to the Catholic Church as she converted out of the I think the Baptist faith down in Virginia, and I like Catholicism, you know, the knowledge part of it, you know. And one of the instructors was saying, well, you know, you would be a good candidate to become a priest. And I said, really? Well, I think I was right at the door when I was in this class. I was right at the door of puberty. And when puberty hit, I forgot all about some of everything except the young girls out there, you know. And that at the same time, I remember, because I did have some knowledge about religion. I said, I remember one night I said, the devil, where are you? Where is the devil? Devil, where are you? I want to see the devil. I want to see you, devil. And I found out it was in me. And that was a wake-up call for me, you know. And it took me a minute, and it took me some circumstances, some bitterness of life to bring me back to my senses, because I wasn't raised like that. But I was reacting to the environment that was trying to tell me who I was, and I didn't like it. You know, I was even a Boy Scout as a preteen. I was a Boy Scout. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country. I'll be morally straight, mentally awake, and morally straight. I remember that oath, that pledge. And alhamdulillah. Anyone else have a comments to make? Again, this is not just talk. And we certainly have experienced that. You don't get the type of conversation that we've been having over the last hour, almost 2 hours. And God willing, we're going to go on to 10 o'clock, inshallah. If you want to go, the program is designed to go until 10. But if I find a lack of enthusiasm, Brother Edward, are you still with us?
I have returned. I had to take a break for Salat.
Sure. Let me ask you if you could pull up what you wanted to pull up earlier. And,
well, no, it wasn't a video or anything of that nature. It was
okay.
simply, it was more information on the background of the Harmony schools, the Gulen movement,
Yes.
which is also called Hizmet. And just the fact that starting, I think the first time I was ever engaged them was in 2009.
Mm.
And I went along with a friend who had a daughter. I want to say she was 8 years old. I think the daughter was 8. And this is getting preparation. It was maybe July or August of 09,
Mm-hmm.
and preparing to make a school selection
Yes.
for the young lady. And my friend had heard some really nice things about this Harmony district, Harmony schools, charter school. So we went and visited the place and things like that. She ended up not going there for whatever reason,
Mm.
but the name stuck in my head. And I want to say probably 2023. So we're talking now 14 years later.
Okay.
I go to an interfaith event during Ramadan. And the group that is sponsoring the interfaith, and they're doing it at Wilshire Baptist Church here in Dallas. And Wilshire Baptist Church, if you were a member of the Islamic community under Imam W.D. Muhammad in Dallas, Wilshire was one of our sister churches. That was a church that
Wonderful.
we went and worshiped with them. They would come worship with us. We were heavily involved with them in interfaith.
Beautiful.
They were the Baptist component. Lovers Lane Methodist Church was the Methodist component, so on and so forth.
Yes.
So they were having iftar that night at Wilshire Baptist Church, and I go. And 70% of the people who are there at iftar are Muslims, and they are from Turkey. And they're part of a group that's called the Dialogue Institute.
Mm.
So break into conversation with the people that are around my table. And, we're all exchanging, our origin story, who we are, how we came to our faith, all, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then, we're just talking and different things. And what kind of things do you guys do? What is the Dialogue Institute about? And they say Harmony schools and this, that, and the other. Bells start going off in my head.
Yeah.
This is 2 years ago. And I was saying, I'm familiar with that. There was one of your schools was in Richardson, Texas, just on the northern border of Dallas. And a friend, and we got into that conversation about that school and where it is now and all those things. So it kind of whetted my appetite, because before in 09, I didn't know that Harmony Schools was faith-based. It was a charter school.
Okay.
I had no idea it was faith-based. And I definitely did not have any idea that an Islamic group was behind the school.
Mm.
So obviously more investigation, leads me to where I was tonight. And we didn't get a lot of time to discuss them, because their schools do very well, heavily involved in the STEM classes. But as I was saying earlier, the way that they hire, and they actually were investigated here in Texas for the way that they hire, because they are looking for individuals with a certain value system to teach in their schools.
Yeah.
So they actually got hit with a discrimination complaint. Because if you are familiar with what goes on in our schools now, and this is right or wrong, I'm not taking a side on this.
I understand.
Is that you will have individuals who will identify as gay or lesbian.
Yes.
Who are educators.
That's true.
It's a fairly common thing in public school system.
Yes.
Right. So this particular school got in trouble, or this group of schools, they were investigated as a body for their hiring practices and things of that nature. It really kind of came out that really didn't do anything wrong. I'm sure that there were some nod, nod, wink, winks. We know what you're doing. You need to clean up your act type of thing, because like in most Islamic environments that involve our children or our neighbors' children, for right or wrong, we're probably not going to engage the services of the LGBTQ plus community.
That's true.
If we don't have to.
Yes.
In some cases you can't get around it, but if we can figure out a way around it, we're not going to hire those folks. So again, but my impetus is not about locking anybody out. It's more about us forming our own school system, using the legitimate funds that are available to us from our labors, our property ownership, our contributions to this country. And to the extent that we can, without, again, stepping over that line and breaking numerous civil laws or whatever,
yes,
that we bring in the type of teachers and administrators into those schools that mirror our values and are going to spend Monday through Friday and summers and whatever being an example of those values to the children that we're educating.
yes.
That's what I would like to see. I know that's not necessarily an easy lift, but when's anything been easy for us?
That's true, and we need to hear that more, Edward. Because there's so much. Well, I used on Brother Imam Yusuf Ramadan's program. I use the sissification, and the idea that the natural history of human life, men have been those that go up and cut down the forest and bring the bear meat and the bear coat back, or not the bear coat, but the necessary hide for the bear coat. That has been the traditional role of manhood. Manhood has a role, and womanhood has a role in historical sense as well as a logical sense in terms of how we see nature presenting these roles. So I'm glad you brought that up. Oftentimes I have members in my family that are of the homosexual community. I love them, but I'm not open to them propagating this idea to me. It's a live and let live. When I speak on the air, I say, well, that group, that thinking represents an exception to the rule. But historically, it's not something that is propagated in historical terms. You don't see a widespread propagation of that exception to the rule because of the logic of that type of behavior. It does not conform with the continuation, the natural continuation of the species. It has to be promulgated. You have to invite someone to come out of or confuse the roles. And my guest, who I hope will be with us next week, we may talk about it. He did work for a group in the Selma, Dallas County area. He did work for a sexual abuse organization, and the stories of children below the age of consciousness, 2 and 3 years old, being raped, and the consequences of that. Siblings performing, young siblings, performing sexual acts on one another because they were shown that, that type of behavior. And that's a whole program in and of itself. But yes, Edward, what I called upon you, what I wanted to do was to invite the entire audience on the AM 360 platform to tell us about what they see as tell us, audience, what you see as a critical issue, something that we really must give attention to and action towards, and solutions that you may have, some common sense solutions to the problem, like you've offered, Edward, in terms of education. And also, I don't know what the state of the grant writing community is now, but I know there were too many people in Selma area, Dallas County area, that were gaming the system as grant recipients, and the requirement for organizations to kind of like come together, if they were focusing on the same particular issues, to come together. They were trying to do some better regulating of the grant system. And I don't know what the state of that is right now. But also, I'm seeing more and more wealthy individuals like LeBron James giving attention to education in their area, his home state of Ohio, I think the Cleveland area, I'm not sure, but giving monies to help young people in their educational pursuits. We need more of that, and maybe we can come in contact with individuals that see the worthiness. I was thinking as you were sharing, Edward, there is here in Florida, there's a reluctance, in fact, a movement to just discard history of America if it includes some of the ugly events in that history. They really don't want to disrupt the narrative that has been going on, the American mythology that we've experienced. And a lot of problems here in America are because of mythology. The myth of George Washington never telling a lie, and the like, are problematic when you leave out the Trail of Tears and other activities, chattel slavery. Everybody's, there's always been slavery. Well, there's never been a tape of slavery in the history of the world where people were emptied out of any connection with their past, and then something else put in them to make them dysfunctional. That had never happened until the American chattel slavery system, and it still has its problems. The long periods of dysfunctionality become genetic, into the DNA after a while, and so that becomes a challenge to overcome that genetic memory of dysfunctionality. So I'm speaking of critical issues that you're seeing, dear audience, and perhaps a solution that you think will be helpful. Don't everyone join the conversation all at once now. There are going to have to be forums where we do this. Muhammad Sharif, welcome. Assalamu alaikum. Come on in. Unmute yourself. You're still muted, Muhammad.
How about now?
Very good. Assalamu
Yeah,
alaikum.
right. Walaikum assalam. Yeah, I just want to, well, what would happen if, that is, and that's a big if, what's going on in the high level of government, once they start, they don't stop. It's going to be a revenge, retaliation. This is not our concern, really, at that level, but it is our concern if this should happen. There's a possibility that there may be another civil war.
Go on.
We hope we should get in a position to do something for ourselves. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it there because it's a strong possibility. Okay, I think I'll just stop right there. Amen, Michael. Are we still on?
Yes, sir. I had to step away from my mic.
Oh, yes, okay. Mhm.
But yeah, okay. Well, let's look at that. It's interesting you say that. I remember years ago, Imam Muhammad shared with us the beauty of the religion of Al-Islam in terms of the logic that it presents to us in dealing with issues. Slavery has been an issue, but he said that the way that the Quran, now I'm specifically saying the sources of the religion are the Holy Quran and the life example of Prophet Muhammad, praise and peace be upon him, that conforms with the scriptural guidance of the Quran, not propaganda or misrepresentation of the Prophet's life and his actions. His actions conform to the guidance of God that he brought. And Imam talked about how the Prophet said, if you have a slave, because there were slaves in Egypt, alaikum assalam, alaikum assalam. I'm gonna sign off. Your daughter's still with you? Okay. I accidentally hit the disconnect button. That was my friend Asma. His daughters were visiting him in the
All right, good
hospital.
on.
He was listening. So here's the point. Here's the point. Ifonella, need to mute your phone. Okay. Yes, the point that the Imam was making, Prophet Muhammad, in regards to slavery, that if the slave has a job that's too hard for them, that they should be assisted. The slave should wear the same clothing as the person that they're in servitude for, and should eat the same type of food that the person or the group that they're in servitude for. Imam Muhammad said that if that behavior was practiced, the bloodshed of the Civil War would not have taken place because slavery would have been made more humane. You know, the type of slavery experienced in America, the chattel slave, the disconnection, and we know about separation issues now because of psychology being so prevalent in our environment. Psychological behavior and issues of trauma are being talked about over the airwaves and so forth. So the bloodshed that was experienced was because of political dynamics, and slavery was a part of those dynamics, but also the slave industry wanting to separate itself from the rest of the American state connections. So yeah, Muhammad, it's interesting. I think you may have been on Map 5 this past Monday at 1 o'clock, where Brother Fleming El Amin, one of the co-hosts of Map 5 that comes on Mondays, he
Yeah,
was saying,
I was on.
well, he was saying that in the 2025 document that President Trump's administration is instituting, there is language speaking to social unrest and the social unrest reaching a point where the suspension of constitutional government may have to take place. We're seeing tactics being used that are disturbing to many of us, where you have mass representatives of the government snatching people up in the public and putting them into unmarked cars and taking them off to facilities in the name of maintaining
Order.
yeah, maintaining order. But the particular focus, I think they have one of the focuses. It's not the only one. One of the focuses is gathering up, locking up and confining those who are here in the country illegally from other areas, south of our borders. But you're right. When you talk about disorder, crime, the crime element needing to be checked by the use of military forces, that's a problem. There's certain restrictions of the use of the military. I can't think of the language. Not comatosis.
Posse comitatus.
Comitatus. Thank you, thank you, Edward. Yeah, there's certain rules that are being broken by this administration, and I call it a disrespect for the law that these individuals, particularly the president, swore an oath to uphold. I'm a former military person, and I swore an oath to protect and defend this country from enemies, foreign as well as domestic. And there is, to my recollection, or to my thinking, I should say, there is an internal enemy that wants to do away with the constitutional form of government, while at the same time claiming to be super patriots. They're liars. They're just liars. I'm sorry, Afanella, welcome. I beg your pardon. I'm sorry, I had my head down. Go ahead. Welcome to the conversation. Iphonella. Unmute yourself and share with us.
While she's getting knew that, Brother Michael, I would like to say in reference to using the National Guard coming in Chicago and D.C.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Assalamu
alaikum.
Go ahead. Yes, sir. Who is this?
My name is Muhammad Mubarak. I'm in Fort Valley, Georgia. And I was
Welcome.
listening to, thank you. I was listening to comments about the Civil War.
Yes,
And that's
sir.
like say, it's in the language. It's in the language. And one side, he's saying that it was civil, then you're saying that the bloodshed. So it should be a changed term because it's not civil if you have violence and bloodshed.
Yes, sir. I
So
understand.
we having a civil, yeah, that should be addressed, and we having a civil war in terms of the North and the South still have their own ideas of how they want to run this government, and still at odds to empower themselves and have control over people.
Yes, sir. I see.
Yeah.
What I'm looking at is, in fact, I heard the language from this. I would call her a patriot. Really, maybe that may be too strong for right now. But I was listening to Catherine Austin Fitts. She's been involved in the federal government, and I think she's in the banking area, and she was a part of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I believe she said she was involved in that. But she was talking about. I wrote it down. I wrote her comment down. She was talking about the Uniparty, and the Uniparty are the Democrats and the Republicans. That there's not a whole lot of difference between them. The emphasis of one may be directed in one particular direction, but and the commonality, she didn't mention this, but the commonality that I see, that all of these, I won't say all, pardon me, I have to caution myself about overgeneralization. Many of the political figures from federal, state, and local are in office. We, the common people, may put them in office, but those who are the special interest people that have monies to have their bills, those that have the big pockets to support certain to support certain bills. They give their attention to those folks, just like the medical field gives a lot of their attention to the pharmaceutical companies. I'm gonna have to mute you, brother. Okay, good. Yeah, with background noise. So, was it Brother Baraka? Did I hear that correctly? Afanella, say your name for us again. I apologize. It's late in the evening.
That's Mubarak.
Mubarak, yes, okay. And I thank you for those comments. Yeah, but you know, you're not going to find a perfect governmental system anywhere in the world. In fact, perfection is really not achievable except in the intent. You know, human beings, we're not able to achieve a perfection only in terms of our intentions, our desire for excellence, the pursuit of excellence, getting better and better. But there's no perfection for us as humans. You know, we're going to fall short of that. But we can intend to be better and to be better and to be better. And I have seen incremental changes from the times of the dysfunctionality environment created for chattel slavery, and the results of that. I've seen, you know, people like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth being able to speak their truth to power. Booker T. Washington and his strategies in the dangerous South of that time, presenting one face, cash your buckets down where you are, and another face in terms of dealing with the issues of injustice very quietly and undercover, so to speak. Kareem Hamid, welcome to the conversation. Your thoughts?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Praise be to Allah.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you for joining.
I'm seeing this regime is strategically placing military personnel in certain areas of the country.
Yes.
I heard it mentioned just a few minutes ago to defend the country. That is not the oath that is taken. The oath is to defend the Constitution.
That's true.
To defend the Constitution.
Thank you for that. Yes, sir.
And that is what is at stake. I'll stop right there, my brother.
Oh man, you can go on with that, man. You opened up something there. Yeah, that's a distinction there that's very necessary for us to, there are a lot of myths that have become problematic for us. And one of them is that America is a nation of laws and not of men. But we haven't reached that yet, in terms of a solid history of that kind of performance of laws being over the will of powerful men, powerful, wealthy, and influential men, deciding, nullifying laws based on their will and ability to carry it out because of their power and influence and money. It's still
Yes.
it's still a situation in progress. Go ahead.
Yes, we have to be aware of what is being set up. Is what is being set up in the scenario being presented, a visual of military force in cities. Matter of fact, they mentioned the idea of the military training in the cities of the United States. Now, the strategy that this regime is using is that they know that they will lose the vote in the midterm elections.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, but will the midterm elections still be in effect? Because if he calls a national emergency and implements martial law, that suspends the Constitution.
And nullify the voting.
And it nullifies all elections. That is what he is setting up. And he's looking forward to starting a violent resistance to what they are doing. He has violated the Constitution to a great degree.
I agree.
But where are those that took a pledge to defend the Constitution?
Yes, sir. That's a good question.
So I'll stop right there. But I'm hoping that if elections are not outlawed, if we are able to actually carry out a midterm election, I'm encouraging everyone that loves freedom that they go and vote. That they go and vote this regime and this type of system out. Without that, we are really facing some very dire circumstances and situations. I pray to Allah that we know the depth of the suffering that will be enacted all of us, all the citizens of this country, this should be the number one conversation that we are having.
And
Is
why
to
is
dismantle because people keep bringing up subject matter that that is not congruent with the emergency that we're faced with. I don't want to know the recipe for chocolate chip cookies. You know, something so frivolous as that.
Yes.
This is a conversation that we should be having ongoing and register the importance. The importance. I don't want my grandchildren to be in a country that is heavily authoritarian.
Yes.
It's a dictatorship. We should be discussing these things.
I agree.
So all I'm making the correction that no, they do not take an oath to defend this country. They take an oath to defend the Constitution.
Yes, sir.
From enemies, foreign or domestic.
Yes, that's right.
And he has done that. And no one is stepping forward. He should immediately be removed.
I agree.
But our politicians, some of them are afraid for their lives. We wonder how come they are going, because their lives and the family and their families have been threatened.
In fact, this patriotic lady that I mentioned, Catherine Austin Fitz, she talked about threats, and she compared what she was experiencing with the movie that Will Smith played a part in, Will Smith, Enemy of the State. It's a very interesting movie dealing with secret elements in the government that were rogue, going against the parameters and the laws that they were supposed to uphold in doing their secret work. They were going against the rules, and they were like rogue, you know, off the rails, so to speak. You know,
these are gangsters.
That's a good name for them. Yes, sir.
They are gangsters. You know, and the Democrats tried to deal with them through legislation. Get real. They don't care nothing about no legislation.
You can see that.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, which was a MAGA supporter, she might still be, but she have spoken out.
I saw it.
Against shielding the release of the Epstein files. And in her statements, she said, I fear for my life. I fear for my life. So this is the situation we're in.
Yes.
And we need to be informing the public. No doubt about that. Everybody I know, the conversation I'm having here now, I'm having with everybody that I'm close to and I come in contact with, encouraging us to please go out and vote in the midterm elections. Otherwise, we can forget about it. It'll be all over.
Well, you know, we say, mashallah, inshallah, whatever Allah approves, and if Allah approves it, we say, if God is willing, you know, because what causes me to step back from anxiousness is the fact that the creator of the heavens and the earth, we say Almighty God, we say Allah, is never not in control.
Yeah, but Michael, here's one more thing. I don't mean to cut you off.
Wait. Let me finish my point. He's always in control. But our way of life, Al-Islam points out that there is a principle there are principles that laws that Allah has established in his creation that he brought out of nothing. And one of them we have in our religion called qadr. And that is that everything that he has created has a potential for good or for harm. And if you misuse yourself, if you misuse the social connections, anything that you misuse has that potential to bring on harm to the individual and the society. And if it's properly used, you have the good results. So what we're seeing is a misuse. We've seen it before. We've seen it with Pol Pot. We've seen it with the Soviet Union. We've seen it with Genghis Khan going back into history, the Roman Empire, the empires of Greece. We've seen the misuse of what the Creator has created, and He's put moral consciousness into the human being. And when we go against moral consciousness, or we're not willing to stand up, to speak, to act in support of what is moral and ethical, then there are bad consequences that have to come.
That's right. But know one thing, Allah helps those that help themselves.
We better believe it.
Now, we can't just say, well, I know Allah is in charge, and we just do nothing.
That's right.
Allah helps those that help themselves. So there are actions. There are actions that we must take in order to help ourselves.
I agree.
So I'll stop right there, my brother. Thank you.
That was my reason for raising the question. There are critical issues that we see going on in our life and in our country and in the world. What suggestions do you put forward? We are practicing one of those, but it's not enough. It's not enough just to talk about it. We have to organize ourselves. Al-Islam calls upon us to form alliances for the good. This lady, Catherine Austin Fitts, that I heard, she cautioned us. She said, "Okay, yes, I have been persecuted for my stance against bad government and the secret misuse of the funds of the American people with no type of accountability." She was exposing monies in the military budget as well as the I think it was the housing and urban development budget, trillions of dollars that are not being accounted for. But before she left the mic, she talked about things that we could do. She talked about maintaining, being responsible for maintaining our own health, that the pharmaceutical companies are poisoning the people with medicines. That, the pharmaceutical company has its benefits, but they also have its harms by producing medications that have side effects, producing the environment where they're in the ears of the medical profession to induce the people, particularly older people. It seems like when you get older, there's all kinds of medicines that they want to be loading you up with. I'm experiencing that now. The doctor told me, well, your cholesterol is a little high, and the medicine I'm taking is making me sick. And I stopped taking it. Well, that's just me. I'm not encouraging other people. You do what you see you need to do. But this lady, Miss Catherine Fitts, Austin Fitts, she says we need to protect our health. We need to grow healthy foods. We need to have gardens. She was giving common sense advice. There's certain things that we don't have any control over. The levers of government are in the hands of those people that we elected, and they're doing what they're doing.
Yes, you're correct. If you have heard me speak recently, I mentioned that my neighbor won the aldermanic election.
Yes.
And her and the mayor of the small area that I'm in, we are going, we had an effort to establish a community on garden. We had the land cleared, all staked out and everything. And then COVID hit.
I understand.
That put that on hold. Now we are reintroducing. Now, once again, it's very important. Reintroducing, starting a community garden, because we are going to face huge food shortage. And one of the first things for survival is food, clothing, and shelter. So we are going to begin that effort once more to plant food, to feed people in this ward that I'm living in. I hope all of us take advantage of that.
Yes.
Begin to grow our own food and not be reliant. The farming industry in this country is in a shambles. I mean, a big, deep hole, a shambles. So I'll just stop right there, my brother. There are things that we must do, but we must be aware of the critical. We must be aware of the critical situation that we as citizens of this country are faced with. And this movement, this far-right movement, it is not just national, it is international.
That's true.
It is internet. This is very internationally. And there is a philosopher that I've informed people about. I read this here some years ago. His name is Alexander Dugin. And he is the one that is implementing, getting rid of the Western cultures, the empathy, those things that that help the common citizen. They are encouraging a return back to authoritarian government.
Yeah,
and it is occurring.
This has been the struggle since the establishment of America, the mercantile mindset against the human mindset. You know, the environment so that the good human life can grow and develop and establish.
Yes, you're right. It started with Iblis.
Absolutely.
It started with Iblis.
That's a reference to what now?
That is a reference to what? To devalue the human being.
Okay, and that's I'm asking that for the YouTube audience.
Yes, sir. Right. To devalue the value of the human being that God created. God placed the common human being as management and manager over the whole of creation.
And who
but
was
there
that?
are people that don't count themselves among the common people.
Yes.
They feel that they should have been given that task, that high station. And the Shaitan is working diligently to disprove that the common person is worthy of managing the creation itself. And what we are witnessing, or for real, is the death throes of the Shaitan. He is unleashing everything at his disposal because the time that Allah allotted for him, a period of respite, we're in the last days of that respite, and the Shaitan knows it. Goodness is growing on the earth. Even these Caucasians in this country, many of them are crying and apologizing for how they have treated us and the common people. That is happening. So I'll stop right there, my brother. This is very, there are things that we must do.
We have to identify what can the everyday man and woman, what can we do with these powerful global forces that are involved in a Gog and Magog kind of situation. You have these authoritarian forces, that want to control the common man and woman and control the resources of the world. And then you have those that don't want any type of control over their life, no moral standards. Everything and anything goes. And we see the elements of that with the I see the Epstein files as a distraction, really. Now, I'm not saying that pedophilia and sex trafficking is extremely and critically important for us to get rid of, and to know that representatives of governments and people in high places all over the world have been involved in this type of behavior. But we have to understand that the devil-minded people who want to maintain control over every aspect of human life, they ask the question, what is this influential person like? Does he like girls? Does he like boys? What do they like? Is he a gambler? We have to have something, if he doesn't like it, can we entice him to liking these things so that we can have some type of control over those who have influence? They may be political, they might not be political, but they may be very powerfully influential. But what can I get over these individuals that I can control them by threatening to expose them, So this is not a new thing, but this has been going on. And how do we protect ourselves? We have to have knowledge. Knowledge is a protecting force against the circumstances that are bitter in the life of human beings. We need to know. We need to know ourselves. We need to know that individuals really don't have a lot of success in dealing with institutions. You have to form alliances. You have to come together as a group. It's just like in the early history of man, when he decided that he needed more than just berries and that sort of thing that was close by. He needed to get some protein, and he needed more than just a rabbit dinner. He needed bears or a larger animal, and that he couldn't overcome these larger animals by himself. So he had to join forces to overcome these predators, and so forth, to sustain the life. So cooperative efforts is something that's built into the human being. We see this when we have natural disasters. Natural disasters bring out this, we forget about color, we forget about ethnicity, we forget about politics. When a hurricane or a tornado hit, I've seen it myself. I was in the big tornado in April of, 2010 or something like that. Anyway, it blew through my neighborhood and it was devastating. But I saw my wife and children, they went to other relatives nearby, or not so nearby. And I stayed in the home, which was damaged. And I saw people coming into, they couldn't drive into the neighborhood because there were trees all over the roads. They walked in diapers and water, bottled water, and other needs, basic needs. And they set up a station a couple of blocks down the hill from my house. And it was beautiful to see. I didn't go to the door or to the window, but I was laying down. I didn't sleep very well, but I was laying down. But I heard the mayor of the city of Birmingham come through with a group talking about how they were going to bring resources to help revive that stricken area. So we know about cooperative efforts when necessary. But the thing of it is, the Creator wants us to understand that that's something innate in us that we need to establish and not just wait for hard times to come. But
That's right.
maybe, you know, these political hard times are a gift from God for us to get our act together. I don't know. God knows best.
You
You know, we
know,
don't
we
yes,
have
sir.
a chapter, we have a chapter in the Quran entitled Ma'un,
Yes,
neighborly needs.
that's right.
We need to implement that. This Constitution starts with we the people,
Yes, sir.
we the people. And that is how this is undone. We
Yes.
the people. I'll stop right there, my brother.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm going to carry it a little bit further.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, brother. Mike.
The misinterpretation of the intent of that language, just like the misinterpretation of the Declaration of Independence. Now, these people that established the language, they weren't living up to that language, but they set forward ideas on paper, straightforward language to live, to grow into, if we could establish the proper kind of environment for growth. The language is there, the Declaration of Independence, the way the Constitution is set up, that we don't have to go into another civil war to change the government. If we get enough of our neighbors to agree that we want to change certain aspects of our government foundation, we can do so by the majority vote. And don't say it can't happen. You don't know what can happen. You know, sometimes you can get such a spanking, a butt whooping, that you know your whole spirit changes. And life knows how to give us that. We talked about earlier the bitterness of life. The bitterness of life is there for a reason. We get too comfortable. Look, when has America had a serious social conflict? Civil War? Yeah, we
The
know about.
so-called civil rights movement.
I hate that language.
Yeah, you heard me say
I hate it with a passion.
You heard me say so-called.
Yes, sir, I did.
This is human rights.
I
And
agree.
no one has been at the forefront of promoting and fostering and to bring about human rights. No group of citizens in this country exceed the efforts put forth by the African American community.
Well, I see why Muhammad Sharif brought up civil war, because that was a terrible slaughter of human life in the name of certain principles, you know.
To maintain slavery.
Well, that and that the South wanted to do what it wanted to do in terms of slavery, and in terms of you know, that slavery machine was a big economic engine, and they didn't want to be dictated to in terms of how they ran the South. Yes, and you know, I remember it being said of President Abraham Lincoln, he really didn't care about slavery. What his concern was the dissolution or the breaking up of the United States, becoming ununited, you know, disunited, you know, that was real the foremost issue in his thinking, you know. But anyway, I say that we have foundational instruments of government that are being disrespected. And I believe, Frederick Douglass believed, I heard somebody undermining Frederick Douglass, you know, and they're entitled to their opinion. But here's a man that's saying that the documents are good, but you know, your behavior is the behavior of savages. You know, you're not trying to live up to Christianity. You weaponize Christianity. Now I'm paraphrasing. Now it was very diplomatic language that he used, and you can Google the July 5th presentation of Frederick Douglass. You can Google that. The
4th of July.
Yeah, it's 4th of July, but it was actually, I think it's noted as the 5th of July
Yes, sir.
presentation. And the longer version, I'm trying to think of who, Ossie Davis, he spoke the longer version. There's a shortened version by James Earl Jones, but the Ossie Davis speech is the one that's unabridged, and it's very interesting. And I'm paraphrasing. He said, "Your Christianity is not doing you any good. Your Constitution that you say you're Americans, it's not doing you any good, you know. And the behavior that you've expressed to my people in particular, but also the Native Americans, is like a nation of savages. You know, the documents, if human beings live up to them, will bring about success for everybody. But savages can't achieve this. You can't get this by being a savage or condoning savagery. You know, the founding leaders of the country, they were not strong enough. They were not strong enough. In fact, they fear for their, look, Imam Muhammad said that the more cultured Caucasians feared their ignorant brothers. And Booker T. Washington wrote about that ignorance. He found that it was a common denominator between black and white misbehavior. I'm going to use that language. Black and white's unruly behavior was out of ignorance. And he saw that in his growing up as the slavery environment and that environment that developed after slavery. You know, it just, we're about to close now. I brought this subject up to a roofing contractor that I worked for. We were on a lunch break, and I asked him, "Well, do you have places in your environment, in your city, where decent white folks will not go?" He said, "Oh yeah, we sure do." And I said, you know, and I didn't go to the other side, the black, but I just let him know I'm curious. Are you experiencing, you know, do you have the experience of having people that look like you that you're not proud of, or you stay away from? And yes, but yet, what is the narrative? You know, all blacks want to be superflies. All blacks are sexually promiscuous. All blacks are this and that. And they create this mythology about us that makes a problem for us in interacting with decent folks. I was in the military working a cold storage warehouse, and there were two guys that were senior to me that were about to rotate out. They were going to leave the position. So I was going to become, unless they brought somebody else in, I was going to become the manager of the cold storage warehouse. And I wasn't but 18 years old. I had come into the military at 17, and I wasn't but 18 years old. And these two Caucasians from the Midwest decided that they were going to ride me and just make a problem for me. And I saw it coming. I saw them starting. And I kept thinking one day, how am I going to handle these guys? I don't want to get to fighting them. You know, they didn't look like they had too much skill in that department. And I was pretty good with my hands. And the thought came to me, and they started up one day as I was walking towards the office. They started up, and I said, you know, you two guys act like a bunch of niggas. I had no more problem out of them guys. God God put on my spirit and on my tongue, tell them this, tell them this. This will solve the problem. Just give them this language. And I had one guy, I was on the radio in Birmingham on WAGG. It was a program called Knowledge is Power. Anyway, I'll tell you about that story later on, but there was this Caucasian that would always call in and get into the business. It was a black station, African-American station. And he would come in. One day I said, okay, I'm just going to just tell it like it is. I told him, I said, you know, all Europeans that came to America were not the founding leader types. You know that, don't you? I say, you know that most of the people that came to found America were from the dregs, the lower level, many of them coming out of debtors' prisons and institutions for the insane. You know that you all, the majority of you all, were considered the N-word of Europe. You know that, don't you? Didn't have no more problems out of him either.
The country of Australia,
yes,
began as a penal colony.
That's right. That's right. But we get all these myths.
Yes, all these lies.
Well, yeah, but they're very strategic lies to get an effect. The early effects of myth was developed to hide the sciences. You know, the pantheon of gods actually represented certain human sciences. The muses that were described in, I think it's Greek mythology, they represented the sciences of music and other cultural and scientific realities. So, but they have managed myth here, like you say, lies, to lift themselves up. You know, I remember President Johnson, and I'm gonna close with this. President Johnson, he was a very skilled politician, and he was honest enough to share. He was from the South. He was honest enough to share the strategy of telling white folks that they were better than Negroes. And if you give them that you're better than a Negro, you can manage, you know, that's how you manage them. You know, misdirect them, direct them towards, I call it the Confederate cross, both the black and the white in a trick bag, you know. The blacks seeing themselves as inferior to white folks, and the common white Caucasian man and woman seeing themselves better than a Negro, you know, and so they put themselves out of competition by doing what Dr. King says. You got your foot on my neck, you can't progress either. You know, if you steadily putting your foot on my neck, you can't move, you know? So the psychological secrets are being exposed nowadays. You know, the earth is, the physical earth and the earth of the common man and woman is moving like they received revelation from God. And somebody had to live during the time of judgment, the time of the standing up of and the religion being for God only and not being weaponized. That faith being for God and following God's instructions on serving His will and plan for the world and the people of the world and the environment that we live off of. You know, that spirituality being for the Creator only and not weaponized to control people and to misuse and oppress people. So it's 9:59, dear people. Muhammad, you have your hand up.
Yeah, but Mike, I just wanted to say that.
No, take your time.
Can you hear me? You hear me now, right?
Loud and clear, but I'm saying take your time.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we've gone past education, business, culture, and now look at all the programs tonight we're talking government. So I was suggesting that we all go to MAP 5 Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, since we're in the government. MAP 5 at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday.
Good idea. Yes, sir. Yeah, we need to have conversations, more detailed conversations. It's necessary that we do more than just talk about football.
That's right.
Sports and entertainment.
That's right.
And we're going to be forced to focus on what's necessary if we don't choose to act and respond on our own. You can see how the world is. Look, the threat of Africa uniting with the alliances that President Traore is bringing about, and how that is inspiring the African continent and the African continent, Brother Edward mentioned, is a very young and vibrant population. Those who are, I think the majority of the African people now are under 30 years old. I heard that statistic. But I know it's a very youthful population in Africa. They are making babies. They are making babies. They're producing their future, the future workers and thinkers, educators, and so on and so forth. And Africa, because of bad business deals, has been a source of the vibrant economies of the West.
And corrupt leadership, corrupt leaders in Africa.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at the economics of it because, especially in America, the American dream is to have a nice house, a good job, and so on and so forth. And that, with the American or the Western empire is falling because Africa is reclaiming its resources and getting out of these bad business deals by just nullifying them. Said, no, we're not going for this anymore. You've been robbing us with this language that you put on paper and these alliances that you form, and we're no longer going to abide by them. Look, that's a very serious worldwide problem for the way the world has been structured thus far. So these are big concerns, and we're going to have to deal with those issues that we can deal with. Certain things we don't have any control over, but we got to know the difference between those that we have the power to exercise our free will and our energies to correct problems and issues. In fact, there's an obligation on us as human beings. We have an obligation to overcome obstacles, barriers, and resistance in our way and establish a decent life for ourselves and our children and grandchildren and so on. So thank you, dear audience, for your patient hearing. We hope you'll join us, The Intimate Stranger, at 7 o'clock Eastern. And yours truly, Micheal Hamin, that's with Edward Willis, and yours truly, Micheal Hamin, for Not Just Talk at 8 o'clock Eastern. We appreciate you joining us. We'll make a supplication, and we ask the Creator, O Lord, guide us among those you've guided aright. Save us among those you've saved. Bless us in whatever you give us, and deliver us from the harm that you judge. You judge, and none can judge against you. And those whom you befriend are not disgraced. Ameen. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Ameen.
Remember Allah, Allah remember you. Ameen, ameen, ameen.
Well,